you can't shut up Donald Trump, but in a horrible sort of way, or a funny sort of way. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's a comedian, he's an entertainer. He was entertaining the crowds, and he had a lot of viral play with that. He also went to McDonald's and served some French fries to go and troll Kamala Harris, who he claims, without any evidence, that she never worked at McDonald's. So this is Donald Trump is doing what he does best, entertaining the crowd. And honestly, it works for him.
Now we are 2 weeks out from the US presidential election, and the two candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, are, well, pretty much in a dead heat as things stand. Harris maybe just a shade ahead in national polls, but in the swing states, the battleground states that will decide the contest, well, there's nothing between them, outside the margin of error for the most part. Let's talk to Sarah Baxter, who's the former deputy editor of the Sunday Times, who's reporting now from Pennsylvania, one of those key battleground states. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, John. If I wasn't talking to you today, I'd be going out to vote right now. As soon as this interview wraps up, I'm going to do my civic duty as an American.
Well, I'm not going to deter you because I don't know which way you're going to vote, but I'm sure whoever it is will be very, very glad that you've done that. And certainly in these stages, this last stage, they're really trying to squeeze every possible vote out of that tiny sliver, Sarah, who may be undecided.
Yeah, who are the undecided by now? I mean, it's really hard to meet anybody who doesn't have at least some underlying sense of who they're going to vote for in the final moments. Actually, I think now it's not about the undecided, because they've all made their bets more or less. It's about turnout. Who's going to get their voters to the polls? And interestingly, a lot of people are voting early, as I am going to be doing. And it's really hard to read this year because, yes, the Democrats are turning out in significant numbers to vote early, as they did in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. But at that time, Donald Trump was ranting on daily about how you couldn't trust mail-in ballots. And though he still says that, his campaign is telling his voters at every rally to go out and vote early. And Republicans are voting in higher numbers than they did before. Does that mean they're all motivated now? Or does that mean they're following orders from the top? It's so hard to read what's going on.
Yeah, impossible to call with any kind of confidence whatsoever. You're in the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, as it's historically called, which is where we're going to be in a couple of weeks' time when we do our run into the election here on Drive on Times Radio. How's it looking? How's it feel? What have you been up to in Pennsylvania?
Well, I thought it was looking pretty good for Kamala Harris, not least because in comparison to 2020, there are very few Trump signs around. And I've actually noticed more Harris signs than I noticed before. I mean, in 2020, in my local area, the only house with a Harris sign was tellingly one of the more wealthy houses in the neighborhood. And, that seemed to suggest the working class vote had gone all in for Trump. I think there's been a change. There's been a change in the composition of who lives in Pennsylvania. The suburbs are growing more diverse. My own community looks more diverse. I don't think you can just do an automatic read-off from 2020 as to what's happening here.
Right.
But, at the same time, so that's what made me think, oh, you know what? Kamala Harris has got this thing in Pennsylvania. But if she doesn't, people are going to look back and say, well, the big mistake was not going for Josh Shapiro, the very popular, competent governor of Pennsylvania, as her deputy, and making a bit of a gamble on Tim Walz, who, frankly, I don't think has added a single vote to Kamala Harris, although he did energize her base at the start of the campaign.
Right, all roads to the White House go through Pennsylvania, they say. And meanwhile, on the latest in the campaign, well, let's start with Donald Trump. He's being Donald Trump, isn't he? Which is what Donald Trump does. He is Donald Trump, and it's everything he says almost is either outrageous to many people or bizarre, and quite often both of those things. There's one example of that, Sarah, at the campaign rally in Pennsylvania just on Saturday. He started talking at some length about the legendary golfer Arnold Palmer, with reference to his manhood, his anatomy. Have a listen.
Arnold Palmer was all man. And I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, That's unbelievable. I had to say it. I had to say it.
And he did say it, Sarah, didn't he? And the thing is, he went on for 10 minutes in that vein.
I know. I mean, you can't shut up Donald Trump, but in a horrible sort of way, or funny sort of way. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's a comedian. He's an entertainer. He was entertaining the crowds, and he had a lot of viral play with that. He also went to McDonald's and served some French fries to go and troll Kamala Harris, who he claims, without any evidence, that she never worked at McDonald's. So this is Donald Trump is doing what he does best, entertaining the crowd. And honestly, it works for him. He looked very low energy at various points in the campaign, but he's coming out of the gate strong in these closing moments, days, weeks. I mean, every vote counts now. As I say, I'm voting already. So the fact is, he's dominating the airwaves, and Kamala Harris has chosen to focus her closing message on whether or not people want Donald Trump back in power. I'm not sure that is the right message, because it means he's using up all the oxygen rather than, forget about that entertainer over here. Here's what I'm going to do for you, the American citizen. I think that worked rather well for Joe Biden when he was campaigning from his basement and barely seen at all in 2020. So let's see how things play out.
Let's have a listen back just to some of that Kamala Harris attack on Donald Trump, or as it's evolving. Let's have a listen back.
He's becoming increasingly unstable and unhinged. I think the American people are seeing it, witnessing it in real time. And we must take note of the fact that this is an individual who wants to be president of the United States. And I think the American people deserve better than someone who actually seems to be unstable.
So she's moved from mocking Donald Trump with her running mate, calling them weird and so on, to warning about the danger of Donald Trump. So reverting to that line of attacks. So look, we're going to be with you. We're going to be there in Pennsylvania. You're going to be with us in person. Looking forward to that too, when we head over there for the final stage of this American election.
So it is good to be back in Wisconsin, and it is great to be in Milwaukee.